December 1985, Chicago O'Hare Airport, gate C-12, 11 p.m. A Soviet military compass sits on the dirty terminal floor, brass worn smooth, Cyrillic engraving barely visible. Nobody notices it. Alexei Dmitriev, 33, Soviet nuclear engineer, just missed his Moscow connection, stuck overnight, embassy closed, no US currency. Outside it's 8 degrees. He walks into the freezing night, breath visible, hands shaking. A homeless man approaches, late 50s, army jacket, Vietnam patch faded. "You look lost, comrade." The veteran hands him the compass. "Kept me alive in 68. You'll need it more than me." Alexei tries to refuse. The stranger is already walking away into the terminal darkness. His last words, "When everything's burning, trust the old tools." 4 months later, that compass would guide the most dangerous walk in Soviet history. Alexei had no idea the stranger just saved 400,000 lives. The veteran takes Alexei to a 24-hour diner 3 blocks from the terminal. Fluorescent lights. Buzzing. The smell of burnt coffee and grease. He buys Alexei a sandwich with crumpled dollar bills. Talks about Vietnam while Alexei eats. "Instruments fail," the veteran says, stirring his coffee. "Compasses don't lie. Magnetic north is magnetic north, even when everything else is wrong." His hands shake slightly, not from cold. Alexei notices the wedding ring, faded tan line where it used to sit tighter. The compass sits between them on the table, engraved in Cyrillic. Lieutenant Pavlov, 1967. Lieutenant Pavlov. Founded in Saigon, 72, the veteran says. Soviet advisor, didn't make it home. 3 weeks earlier, Reagan and Gorbachev had met in Geneva for their first summit. The Cold War was thawing, but slowly. Alexei tries to give the compass back. The veteran closes Alexei's fingers around it. "You're going home. I'm not." He leaves exact change on the table and walks out into the Chicago winter. Alexei never asks his name. By morning, Alexei is on a flight to Moscow. The compass in his carry-on, the stranger's face already fading. Kindness from strangers always carries a price you don't see yet. 3 months later, Alexei would forget the veteran's face, but never his warning. January 1986, Moscow, Kurchatov Institute of Atomic Energy, 4th floor, Reactor Safety Division. Alexei returns to his desk after the American trip, a nuclear engineering conference in Chicago, technically. His colleagues mock the tourist souvenir. The compass sits in his locker beside his radiation badge and a photo of his wife, Irina, and their daughter, Katya, age 7. He's working on RBMK reactor safety protocols, the Chernobyl design. Large, graphite-moderated, water-cooled, 15 reactors operating across the Soviet Union. Chernobyl Reactor 4 had just completed safety test preparations in January, documented in the plant's official logs. Routine stuff, simulate a power failure, ensure the cooling system can handle it. Alexei triple-checks every calculation. He smokes Belomorcanal cigarettes at his desk, the kind with a cardboard mouthpiece, and distrusts digital readouts. His supervisor, Grigory, calls him paranoid. "Trust the instruments, Alexei." But Alexei keeps manual backups of everything. At home, Irina asks about the compass. He tells her the story. She laughs. "An American veteran gave you a Soviet compass? That's almost poetic." Alexei doesn't laugh. Something about the stranger's eyes had stayed with him. A look that said he'd seen things break in ways instruments couldn't measure. The tools you ignore are the ones that save you. In 90 days, that locker would be sealed behind concrete forever. April 25, 1986, 1 a.m., Chernobyl nuclear power plant, Pripyat, Ukrainian SSR. Alexei had been transferred here a week earlier. Rotation assignment, standard procedure. He brings the compass with him. "For luck," he tells the other engineers. They laugh. Superstition has no place in Soviet science. The night shift is prepping for the safety test, simulating a power outage to ensure the reactor can maintain cooling. Deputy Chief Engineer Anatoly Dyatlov is in charge. A hard man, impatient with caution, he orders the test to continue despite warnings from the control room operators. This is documented fact. Dyatlov's insistence would later be cited in the official investigation. The test parameters are dangerous, reducing power too low, disabling safety systems to simulate the outage. Alexei isn't in the control room. He's in the auxiliary building monitoring secondary systems. But he overhears the tension on the radio. He fingers the compass in his pocket during the pre-shift briefing. Brass warm from his body heat, the needle points north, steady and true. Outside Pripyat sleeps, population 49,000. Reactor 4 hums in the darkness, graphite core glowing, water circulating. Every disaster starts with someone ignoring a small voice. In 24 hours, that small voice would be screaming. April 26, 1986, 1:23:40 a.m. The explosion. Alexei is 200 meters away in Control Room 3, monitoring a different reactor. The shockwave hits like a physical punch, walls shaking, lights flickering, then the sirens. Through the window, he sees it, blue light rising from Reactor 4. Cherenkov radiation, visible to the naked eye. That shouldn't be possible. That means the core is exposed. Plant Director Viktor Bryukhanov is on the phone, his voice rising. Impossible. RBMK reactors don't explode. But they just did. The explosion released radiation equivalent to 400 Hiroshima bombs. Verified scientific estimate, calculated later by Soviet and international physicists. Alexei pulls the compass from his pocket. The needle is spinning wildly, reversing direction, magnetic field disrupted by the massive radiation flux. His dosimeter maxes out immediately. 3.6 Röntgens, the highest it can measure. But the compass tells him something the dosimeter can't. The magnetic anomaly is enormous. That means the radiation is beyond anything the instruments can handle. Graphite chunks are scattered across the ground, glowing faintly. Reactor core material. Firefighters are arriving without radiation suits. Someone told them it's a minor accident. Bryukhanov is still in denial. Alexei looks at the compass, then at the blue glow rising into the night sky. Denial kills faster than radiation. What the compass showed him, Soviet dosimeters couldn't measure. 2 out NBM. The radiation meters in the control room are maxed out at 3.6 Röntgens. Designed limit. They can't read higher. But Alexei knows the truth. The actual levels near the core are 15,000 Röntgens per hour. Lethal in 60 seconds. Firefighters are already on the roof, dousing flames, breathing in radioactive smoke. They don't know they're dead men. The KGB has ordered a communications blackout. No one can warn Pripyat, 3 kilometers away. Alexei remembers the veteran's words, when instruments fail, trust, what kept soldiers alive. The compass is still spinning, but slower now. Not pointing north, pointing away from the reactor. Magnetic anomaly. He pulls out his dosimeter and the compass, sets them side by side. The dosimeter shows 3.6 Röntgens, safe according to the gauge. The compass shows chaos. Magnetic field warped by radiation. Which one is lying? Alexei knows. Instruments are built with limits. Nature isn't. He thinks of Irina and Katya, asleep in their Moscow apartment. He thinks of the 49,000 people in Pripyat, also asleep, unaware. The deadliest lies are the ones told with instruments. Alexei had one chance to warn them, and 90 seconds to decide. 3:30 a.m. Alexei uses a phone in the auxiliary building. His hands are shaking. He dials Pripyat Hospital, asks for Dr. Valentina Belokon, a friend from university. She answers, groggy. Alexei, it's the middle of the night. He speaks fast. Valentina, listen. Reactor 4 exploded. The radiation is beyond the meters. You need to evacuate. Unofficial. Now. Silence. Then, are you certain? The compass doesn't lie. She doesn't ask what that means. She trusts him. Years later, Valentina would say Alexei's calls saved her life and the lives of 200 people she managed to quietly move that morning before the official evacuation order came. 36 hours later, documented failure by Soviet authorities. Alexei hangs up. The phone receiver is covered in graphite dust. Black, powdery, radioactive. He wipes it on his pants. His call is traced within the hour. The KGB summons him for questioning. But before they arrive, an engineer runs into the room, breathless. The basement! There's water pooling under the reactor. Alexei feels his stomach drop. Molten core, cooling water. If they meet, the steam explosion will be 3 to 5 megatons, enough to contaminate all of Europe. Loyalty to truth always looks like betrayal to power. His warning saved 200 people. His next decision would save 400,000 tons. 6 a.m. Alexei is ordered to survey the damage. Hazmat suits are available, lead-lined heavy standard protocol for high radiation zones. Alexei refuses. His colleagues stare. You'll die without protection. He pulls on a gas mask, checks the compass. Heavy gear slows you down when seconds matter. The veteran's voice in his head. He remembers the diner, the burnt coffee, the shaking hands. The man had survived Vietnam, not with better armor, with speed and instinct. Alexei moves fast through the wreckage, using the compass to navigate. The needle points away from the highest magnetic disruption, away from the exposed core. He's moving through corridors of death, but he's choosing the least deadly path. His radiation exposure will be measured later. 85 rems. Liquidators, the cleanup crews, averaged 120 rem. Many died. Alexei's path, guided by the compass, kept him just below lethal. The numbers don't lie, recorded in Soviet medical files. He maps the damage as he goes. Reactor core, exposed. Graphite burning. Radiation levels impossible. And below in the basement, the sound of running water. Speed beats armor when the clock is burning. What he found would force an impossible choice. 9 a.m. Alexei reaches the basement level. The air is thick with steam. His boots splash through water, warm, glowing faintly blue in the dim emergency lighting. Cherenkov, radiation in liquid. 20,000 cubic meters of water pooling beneath the reactor. The molten core is burning downward through the concrete floors. Calculations: 48 hours until contact. When molten corium hits that much water, the steam explosion will be catastrophic. 3 to 5 megatons. The Chernobyl disaster would become the European disaster. Documented history. 3 divers, Alexei Baranov, Valery Bespalov, and Boris Ananenko, volunteered for a suicide mission to drain the pool. They found the drainage valves in pitch-black, flooded corridors working by feel. All 3 survived. Heroes. But what the official record doesn't emphasize, someone had to guide them. The basement maps were wrong. Construction had changed the layout, pipes rerouted, valves relocated. Blueprints don't update themselves. Alexei stares at the glowing pool, the compass in his hand. Magnetic navigation works underwater, independent of radiation, independent of light. He has the only tool that can map a path through flooded darkness. The blueprint is never the territory. He had the only tool that could work underwater in total darkness. April 27th, 2 a.m., 36 hours since the explosion. Alexei volunteers to guide the divers. A Navy liquidator lends him a waterproof compass case. Military grade, sealed tight. The 3 divers suit up. Wetsuits, oxygen tanks, flashlights that will fail in the radiation. Alexei explains the plan. The compass works when nothing else does. Magnetic north is constant. I'll map the route. They descend into the flooded basement. Water up to their chests then. Their necks. The flashlights die within minutes, radiation frying the circuits. Total darkness. The only light is the faint blue glow of Cherenkov radiation in the water around them. Alexei holds the compass close, angles it by feel. North is behind us. The valves are southeast. They move slowly, Alexei calling directions, the divers feeling along the walls. The water is warm. Too warm. Somewhere above them, the core is burning. Hours pass. Finally, Alexei's hand hits metal. Here. The divers work the valve. Rusted. Stuck. Then release. Water begins to drain. They surface, gasping. All 4 survive. The pool is drained before the core breaches. Europe is saved. The story is documented, celebrated. But the compass, that detail stays quiet. Heroes are just people who remembered one small thing everyone else forgot. But survival came with a price no medal could pay. May 1986. Moscow, Hospital Number 6. Alexei lies in a bed on the radiation ward. 2nd-degree burns on his arms and neck. Thyroid damage. Bone marrow depression. The doctors give him 5 years. He'll live 23 more, dying in 2009 at age 57. 134 Chernobyl workers were hospitalized with acute radiation syndrome, documented in Soviet medical records. Alexei is one of them. The compass sits on his bedside table. The other patients think he's delirious, fixating on a broken instrument. The needle is frozen now, demagnetized by radiation exposure. It no longer points north. It points nowhere. Irina visits with Katya. His daughter asks about the compass. "A friend gave it to me," Alexei says. "In America." He doesn't say the friend was homeless, or that he never learned his name. He doesn't say the compass saved 400,000 lives. Some things sound too impossible to say out loud. Every tool that saves you takes something in return. His final mission was finding the man he owed everything to. Alexei has recovered enough to leave the hospital. He's back in Moscow, working a desk. Job at Kurchatov Institute. No more reactor sites. He applies for a travel visa to the United States. Denied. State security risk. He writes letters instead. Chicago VA Hospital. Salvation Army shelters near O'Hare. Airport lost and found. Inquiries about a homeless veteran. Late 50s. Army jacket. Vietnam patch. December 1985. No records found. Homeless veterans are often unregistered. Ghosts in the system. Alexei estimates 107,000 Vietnam veterans were homeless in the 1980s, according to a later VA study. His letters pile up in his apartment, unanswered. He examines the compass more closely. The engraving. Lieutenant Pavlov, 1967. Lieutenant Pavel Ivanov, Soviet Navy. Alexei searches Soviet military records. Ivanov was a naval advisor in Vietnam, presumed killed in action, 1968. The compass travelled from a dead Soviet officer to a dead American soldier to a living Soviet engineer. The tools that save us are always borrowed from the dead. The compass travelled further than anyone knew. The Soviet Union collapses. KGB files are declassified in waves. Alexei gains access to records he couldn't see before. He finds a file. Gerald Morrison. U.S. Army medic, Vietnam, 1967-69. Found a Soviet compass on a deceased NVA officer near Saigon. The officer had taken it from a Soviet advisor, Lieutenant Ivanov. Morrison kept it, carried it through the rest of his tour. Discharged 1970. PTSD, homeless by 1980. Chicago VA records show Morrison died January 15, 1986, 3 months before Chernobyl. Hypothermia. Homeless shelter records note his last known location. O'Hare Airport, Gate C12. One entry, dated January 10th, 1986. Gave compass to Russian man. Said he'd need it more. Morrison's VA photo is attached to the file. Same face Alexei remembered. Older, worn, but the same eyes. The dead save the living more often than we admit. One question remained. Why did he give it away? Alexei Dmitriev dies in Moscow at age 57. Radiation-related cancer, lymphoma, documented cause. His funeral is small, a few colleagues from Kurchatov, his family, some liquidators who survived. The compass is buried with him, per his will. His daughter Katya, now 30, finds a box in his apartment while sorting his belongings. Inside, Morrison's shelter records obtained through a contact in Chicago. One page, worn, photocopied. Morrison's last journal entry, January 10th, 1986. If I saved one person, the war wasn't wasted. Katya cries reading it. The Chernobyl sarcophagus was sealed in 2019, designed to last 100 years. The radiation will remain lethal for 20,000 years. In Ukraine, in a cemetery near Pripyat, Alexei's grave marker is simple. 2 names etched below his, Lieutenant Pavel Ivanov, Gerald Morrison. 2 countries, 1 object. The compass is buried in Ukrainian soil, needle still pointing nowhere, brass corroded, engraving faded. Kindness is the only thing that survives radiation. The veteran never knew, but 400,000 people are alive because he gave away his last valuable thing.